Overwatch is IGN's Game of the Year 2016 because it simply is amazing execution on an amazing idea.
EMP activated.
Let's now talk Fortnite, shall we? It's the newest video game craze spreading across fast among kids, college kids, even celebrities, and while it's fun.
The popularity of multiplayer experiences such as Overwatch and Fortnite awoke in the gaming industry a sudden interest in live service endeavors capable of generating recurring revenue streams. Even publishers and developers that seldom dabbled in online titles wanted a share of the spoils. However, as with several other trends in the multi-billion-dollar business, pursuing these ends often proves a gamble. This, ZeniMax Media and its subsidiaries learned the hard way upon releasing Redfall. Developed by Arkane's Austin, Texas branch, the team behind Dishonored and Prey, Redfall promised an open-world co-op adventure with capitalistic vampires as the antagonists. The game tasked players with beating back the supernatural threat by using specialized weapons, stakes, and abilities. But at launch, greedy bloodsuckers hardly seemed the primary cause for concern. Day one adopters on PC and Xbox consoles found the experience beset by copious technical errors affecting performance, enemy AI, texture pop-ins, character animations, and multiplayer connectivity. Worst still, while it could host up to 4 players, the cooperative shooter lacked matchmaking functionality. The storied Arkane Austin lost years of established goodwill in a matter of days, and Redfall's player base rapidly dwindled alongside it. Fans and non-fans of the Dishonored creator wasted no time blaming Redfall's failures on the fact that an outfit best known for story-centric immersive sims had tried its hand at conquering unfamiliar territory. Meanwhile, executives at parent company Xbox Game Studios stood before the slings and arrows, ready to accept the lion's share of fault for the disappointing launch. The truth is, nothing is ever as simple as it seems when it comes to game development. This is the tragedy of Redfall. This video was made possible by you. On the 6th of April, we reached out with a difficult message. Our channel was in dire straits, and after fighting all the hardships this platform faced us with, it seemed like there was no future left for us. But you stepped in, extending a helping hand that allowed us to stand tall again. And this documentary that was made entirely possible by the support we received from you through Patreon, Ko-fi, PayPal, and YouTube is living proof of that. We now truly realize what our content means to you, and we can't wait to create even more of it. So if you are seeing this message for the first time and want to help us, a small team of 4 dedicated creatives turn this passion into a full-time endeavor. Your support is absolutely essential. Please check out our Patreon page where supporting us will grant you access to a wide library of exclusive content and rewards. With your backing, we can not only survive, but break new ground and create amazing content we've never made before. Thank you, and we hope you'll enjoy this video.
Good morning, Morgan. You're not going to like what I have to say next.
Despite reviewing fairly well and becoming a cult hit for lovers of immersive sims, Arkane Austin's 2017 Prey adventure didn't move the needle commercially. Its poor sales reportedly forced higher-ups within the company to push for the development of a project that appealed to a much wider audience. In some respects, such thinking could not have come at a better time. ZeniMax Media, the holding company that owned Arkane publisher Bethesda Softworks, was looking for suitors for a potential buyout in 2018. As these efforts churned in the background, ZeniMax allegedly advised its studios to produce games-as-a-service titles, recurring revenue-based experiences that would keep players invested for years on end. Developers speaking under the condition of anonymity told Bloomberg that, with this instruction, also came urges to implement monetization options in the form of microtransactions. No one from ZeniMax mandated that teams follow this particular track, but the suggestion presumably had some influence on Arkane Austin's next pitch. Proposed as a multiplayer Arkane game, Redfall aimed to meld the studio's trademark storytelling and immersive gameplay with the systems players enjoyed in online shooters. Industry veterans and studio leads Ricardo Bear and Harvey Smith jumped on board as co-directors, their excitement for the project setting a good cadence early on. The vampirism motif bore all the hallmarks of a superficial disease metaphor, but in discussing the politics of Redfall with Eurogamer, Smith divulged that the in-universe fiction actually manifested as a reflection of reality when production began in 2018. Immense political change rocked nations like the United States and the UK. In addition, the director recalled the Austin studio losing access to electricity and water on 2 separate occasions during development, a symptom of Texas's vulnerable power infrastructure which Smith argued put less fortunate people at risk while the rich lived well. Notorious scandals revolving around the Elizabeth Holmes case, the Pharma Bro conviction, and the fall of the Sackler family's pharmaceutical dynasty were also at the forefront of Smith's thoughts while Arkane laid the foundations for Redfall. As a game creator, dissecting such a horror show through the interactive medium seemed the ideal way to ruminate and comment on current events. Smith figured this course of action had worked well in the past for Deus Ex and Dishonored. Thus, a video game about shooting vampires positioned the 1% as the real monsters whose unchecked experiments at a pharmaceutical corporation resulted in the fictional New England town of Redfall becoming overrun with a wealthy cabal of bloodsuckers. This train of thought extended to the cast of playable heroes too, all 4 of whom had good reason to fight back against the ruling class. The telekinetic character Layla was a medical student drowning in debt who volunteered for a failed clinical trial at the pharmaceutical company Avum Therapeutics. Sharpshooter Jacob played the role of an ex-soldier with ties to private military contractor and enemy faction Bellwether. An inventor named Devinder entered the fray as someone eager to share proof of the supernatural with the world. And as a former member of the Navy's Search and Rescue Unit, combat engineer Remy made it her mission to help the survivors in Redfall. Arkane Austin focused its efforts on converting these ideas into its first open-world adventure, yet never wanted to lose sight of its core DNA. The approach of tools, not weapons, and prioritizing different paths of gameplay and exploration occupied center stage as a result. In other words, the goal was to stretch the design philosophy of immersive sims, something the crew had experimented with in the past. Dishonored played with the formula by emphasizing deep stealth, and 2017's Prey prioritized physics-based mechanics. Smith noted in a WCCF Tech interview that Redfall questioned how that same formula could apply to a sandbox world chock full of multiplayer elements. However, those in the know claimed Bear's and Smith's direction floundered as time dragged on. Some stages of development saw the Redfall leads use Ubisoft's Far Cry games as a point of reference. In other instances, the Borderlands series influenced design decisions. The constant back and forth left the disparate disciplines within the studio confused about the game's vision and how best to achieve it. In turn, a strained relationship materialized between the single-player and multiplayer design that the co-directors never quite resolved. According to Bloomberg's dozen or so sources, the small staff size at Arkane Austin constituted one of the main issues that troubled Redfall's development. The headcount of sub-100 people was enough for a contained and relatively easy-to-manage project like Prey. But a live service experience competing for player engagement with titles such as Fortnite and Destiny required a much larger team, and staffing up proved difficult. Comparatively inferior salary offerings from ZeniMax, coupled with Arkane's switch from attracting immersive sim talent to multiplayer developers, contributed to the hiring woes. And while outsourcing support from Bethesda subsidiary Roundhouse Studios and third-party outfits helped in some part, Arkane employees claimed the extra assistance alleviated only so much of the strain. Interestingly, a number of developers saw a light appear at the end of the tunnel when Microsoft acquired ZeniMax for $7.5 billion in September 2020. Many hoped the tech corporation would either order Redfall's cancellation or allow the crew to reboot it as a single-player-only adventure. Aside from scrapping the game's PlayStation 5 version, Microsoft kept its distance to ensure ZeniMax and company could continue operating autonomously. For Redfall, this later proved a mistake, particularly when it came to the final stages of production. The developers at Arkane Austin reportedly contended with too sizable a workload as the clock wound down, hence the delay from fall 2022 to May 2023. To mitigate concerns about whether or not the project would come together, Harvey Smith and other internal leads assured the crew Redfall just needed bug fixes and the last round of art assets. Allegedly, these talks even included an insistence that arcane magic would carry them over the finish line as it had for previous titles, echoing the jargon that BioWare executives used during Anthem's beleaguered creation.
Greatest games, the most dedicated developers, and the most passionate community. Together, we all make Xbox the best place to play. Before I go, there's one more thing. Take a look at this brand new original game from the Arkane team at Bethesda, the studio that created Prey and Dishonored. Arkane created something new for them, an open-world immersive shooter that you can play alone or with your friends. And like Starfield, this game will be an Xbox exclusive.
That's your cue, mate.
Redfall officially entered the public consciousness during the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase in June 2021. Though longtime Arkane fans were shocked upon hearing the company planned on releasing a cooperative open-world game, the stylish reveal trailer and teases of engaging gameplay mechanics reminiscent of the developer's past titles kept some of the trepidation at bay. Assurances that single-player would feel just as viable as playing online went a long way as well. But the anticipation surrounding Redfall ran much deeper for a contingent of the audience. For one, it marked Bethesda Softworks' first AAA release on Xbox platforms as an Xbox-owned entity. Secondly, Microsoft's gaming vertical had been experiencing somewhat of a drought in terms of big first-party game rollouts. The decision to delay Redfall and Starfield out of 2022 amplified fan frustrations, which head of Xbox Phil Spencer acknowledged while speaking on the Same Brain podcast. Still, he maintained both projects were tracking well and would ensure Xbox enjoyed an exciting 2023. Redfall didn't exactly start the year off on the right foot, though. As a first-party title, the vampire-laden adventure sat at the forefront of news that Xbox planned to follow the lead of other publishers and raise its game prices from $60 to $70 in the new year. In a statement shared with IGN, a Microsoft representative argued the increased price reflected the content, scale, technology, and complexity of experiences in Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield. Would-be players questioned this rationale not too long thereafter when an FAQ page revealed that Redfall's always-online connection even applied to the single-player offering. Following widespread backlash, co-director Harvey Smith confirmed Arkane developers were actively working on a solution to rid the single-player mode of the internet requirement. However, the feat couldn't be accomplished overnight, since removing the requirement necessitated the design of a properly encrypted save system and an overhauled UI. Smith claimed the team didn't push the always-online demand for insidious reasons. On the contrary, the Austin studio wanted to keep a close eye on player telemetry, specifically for accessibility purposes. If users were repeatedly falling off ladders, the crew had immediate access to that information, meaning tweaks for the ladder code could go live sooner rather than later. By that same token, if a certain character or tool appeared to be underutilized in-game, Arkane had the data needed to devise a solution. The Redfall lead further addressed concerns about microtransactions, telling Eurogamer that while higher-ups had pressed the idea of implementing an in-game store at one point, he managed to stave off the notion after a bit of back and forth. Yet, the developer sources who spoke with Bloomberg disputed this claim by alleging the co-op shooter did indeed have microtransaction plans throughout the first 3 years of production. Bethesda and Arkane only shelved the monetization practice in 2021 after games-as-a-service initiatives started drawing the public's ire. Either way, the commitment to removing internet connection requirements didn't keep Arkane out of hot water for very long. Hopeful players learned just weeks before Redfall's May 2023 debut that the Xbox version would launch at a performance cap of 30 frames per second, with a 60 FPS mode scheduled to arrive at an unspecified date in the future. Much like the always-online news, word of the sidelined 60 FPS mode for consoles was not well received. Some people on social media even called for Microsoft to delay the game once more. Come launch day, the frame rate cap seemed the least of anyone's concerns. Redfall was met with dismal review scores upon hitting PC and Xbox Series consoles on May 2, 2023. Critics called the vampire adventure bafflingly bad. A mangled mess of dull mission design, bland looter-shooter elements, and mindless AI foes all set against a pallid open-world backdrop. To add insult to injury, an abundance of technical bugs ravaged the title, causing everything from broken character animations and input lag to frame rate drops and distracting texture pop-ins. And those who purchased the PC port arguably played Redfall in its most unpolished state. Eurogamer argued the game's poor performance and technical issues on PC made it one to avoid. Xbox boss Phil Spencer addressed the hard-hitting response on the Kinda Funny Xcast mere days after reviews circulated. Spencer spoke candidly during the sit-down and took full responsibility for the shooter's disastrous launch. However, he bucked against the belief that another delay would have made for a drastically better day-one experience. While small steps to improve Redfall's quality and execution may have helped in some respects, the Xbox executive said tackling critiques leveled against the missions, open-world design, and certain gameplay elements would not have been possible with an extra 3 months or so of production. Spencer's remarks especially shocked gaming pundits and enthusiasts when he called the critical response unexpected. Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty elaborated further in a June 2023 interview with IGN, informing the publication that pre-launch mock reviews indicated Redfall would perform better than it did. But neither of the Xbox bosses were willing to place the blame on anything other than their own leadership mistakes. In separate interviews, the pair reasoned that the crux of Redfall's shortcomings lay with the fact that Xbox neglected to properly engage with Arkane Austin after the ZeniMax acquisition. By the time the ink dried on the buyout, the Austin studio had already reached the midway point in development. Still, Booty said a greater emphasis should have been placed on welcoming the team into the first-party family and setting expectations accordingly. Spencer specified that Arkane missed out on internal Microsoft resources, namely access to the expertise of other Xbox studios familiar with the Unreal Engine 4 tech powering Redfall. After all, the crew's most recent projects, Dishonored 2 and Prey, ran on the id Tech 5-based Void engine and Crytek's CryEngine, respectively. A bit more assistance may have gone a long way. The Xbox executives insisted the same mistakes wouldn't plague other required teams in the future, and committed to ensuring Redfall received the improvements necessary to achieve a higher standard of quality. Bethesda's now former marketing boss Pete Hines echoed this sentiment, firmly believing the vampire game had the potential to rise above its botched launch, like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76 before it. Arkane deployed Redfall's first major update a little over a month after release, unleashing an array of bug fixes, alongside refinements to stability, combat, AI, and multiplayer. To the chagrin of Xbox users, though, the 1.1 update lacked the much-coveted frame rate boost. While it didn't land until October 2023, the second patch finally enabled a 60 FPS mode on consoles, as well as introduced several stability and performance adjustments for the PC port. The Update 2 changes arrived amid Redfall's plummeting player count. At the time the patch went live, Steam DB tracking showed a meager 6 users were playing the game concurrently on Steam. Those figures enjoyed just marginal improvements following the patch's rollout. And Update 3's November release, with its addition of a UV-powered sniper rifle, contributed only incremental gains to the Redfall community's constantly dwindling interest. The ongoing absence of its promised offline mode didn't heighten the game's chances of bringing in newcomers either. However, the vampire slaying experience still had plenty to offer, mostly because of a hero pass that was set to feature 2 new playable heroes boasting unique powers and gameplay. Release notes for Update 3 informed fans that such content wouldn't become available until later in 2024, leaving many to wonder whether Redfall would reach its true potential through a redemptive arc a la No Man's Sky or Fallout 76. According to Windows Central's Jez Corden, who overheard a conversation between Bethesda team members in the summer of 2023, the publisher wanted a redemption arc for Redfall. Yet Corden later clarified in a discussion with Forbes' Paul Tassi that this line of thought seemed more aspirational and less of a surefire initiative. Whatever those aspirations may have entailed, were permanently shelved in May 2024 when Microsoft shuttered 4 Bethesda studios: Arkane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios. Matt Booty's email to staff cited a reprioritization of titles and resources as the reason for the shutdowns. Development on Redfall consequently ceased, resulting in the cancellation of the previously marketed DLC offerings. Microsoft assured players who purchased the Hero Pass through the Bite Back Edition or Bite Back upgrade that they would receive make good offers, equaling the value of the upgrade. The company additionally pledged to keep the vampire shooter and its servers online, though for how long remains to be seen. Reporting from IGN suggested the Arkane Austin shutdown caught developers off guard, having been so far along on producing the offline mode and DLC that both had firm launch windows. Allegedly, the offline options release would have coincided with the arrival of a May 2024 update. Sources also told IGN the Hero Pass content was penciled in for a Halloween debut the same year. Although much of what the studio still had in store for Redfall will sadly never see the light of day. Microsoft did eventually end up approving the release of Game Update 4, featuring revamped neighborhood and nest systems, the ability to pause in single-player, and, more significantly, the much-coveted offline mode, the importance of which cannot be overstated in an industry that far too often fails to preserve games, especially those with online requirements, once their servers have been shut down. One thing does seem certain, though. Redfall was born from a mad dash to reach mass audiences, and instead wound up alienating the very people who may have given it an honest chance. But the staggering year-on-year revenue increase Microsoft posted in an earnings report just days before the closures indicate the fictional capitalistic vampires weren't the biggest threat to Arkane Austin's future.
You will never see the sun again.
Thank you for watching our video. We'd like to take this time to thank, by name, the generous Patreons who have pledged to our Hall of Fame reward tier. Disco Cobra 2013, Ice Cold Water $1, Karu, Sauerkraut, Shuan Chinwin, and those currently subscribed to our producer reward tier: Adam Miller, Brock Piviroto, Darirab Sigurdsson, DCX NG, DJ Redden, Eric Bedio, Fallen Asterisk, It's Peanut Butter, Jake, Jan Christofferson, Matthew McLaughlin, Roberto Nieves, Sir Alex, C. Rob Kaysen, Taylor Moten, Your B. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our channel and backing us on Patreon.